Hi, Rachel. Good morning.
Good morning. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Today's episode of I've Never Met a Woman Architect Before podcast is sponsored by the Grouchy Architect Opus 2 MBE LLC, which is led by architect Christian Nielsen Palacios with over 40 years of experience based on quality assurance, QA, quality control, QC, technical specification writing for architectural projects. His consulting services include peer review of construction documents, technical specification writing, mentorship for architects, especially those in small firms, and translation and proofreading services in English and Spanish. Thank you so much to Christian Nielsen Palacios of the Grouchy Architect and Opus 2 MBE LLC. Today I'm here with Rachel Green Rasmussen. Rachel Green Rasmussen, AIA NCARB, is an innovative architect with over 17 years of experience, known for creating spaces that balance functionality and inspiration. As a partner at Architekton, her work spans diverse projects from educational facilities to community and cultural institutions across the Southwest region, all deeply connected to the place and people they serve. She emphasizes climate responsive, sustainable designs that foster learning, community, and growth. Currently serving as president of AIA Arizona, Rachel champions sustainable development, design excellence, and the profession's future. Her user-centered approach, cultural sensitivity, and meticulous attention to detail distinguish her as a leader in contemporary architecture. Welcome, Rachel.
All right. Thank you.
Did you
Thank
want
you for having
to
me.
Did you want to talk a little bit about your involvement in the AIA? I mean, and also Architekton is a great architecture firm. So if you want to talk about that too.
Yeah, sure. I can, yeah, all the lines blur, right? So yeah, I've been at Architekton since I actually started there as an intern in graduate school, and I guess just never left. And it just was a perfect fit right from the start, and just worked my way up and now and feel very fortunate to serve such an institution within Arizona architectural community as partner. And along that journey, I think a big part, they kind of go hand in hand, has been my journey with AIA. And so I remember John Kane just kind of saying, you're going to come to this with me, you're going to come to this with me, and start taking me to all the different AIA functions. And a little bit
And
about me.
John is one
Yeah.
of the principals of, is it his own firm or is
Yeah,
it
he's a founding
yeah, okay.
partner.
Okay, he
Yeah.
is the founding partner. Yes, which I
Yeah.
kind of thought. Yeah, yeah. And then after you tell your story about John, I'll tell you my story about John. But yeah,
Oh, good. I can't wait. um, yeah, so a little bit about me. I'm not much of like a sideline watcher, I guess. So if I'm going to participate in something, then I really want to roll up my sleeves and get involved. And so right from the start, I started doing all the exam prep through AIA, passed all my exams, then got involved with AIA 10 as a co-chair on the AI Phoenix Metro Advisory Council, which then led to my involvement in the AI Phoenix Metro Board for about 5 years, um, which my presidency was 2020, which was a very interesting year to try and figure out how to keep this community going during the pandemic.
yeah.
And then I did take 1 year off before circling back and joining AI Phoenix or AI Arizona as president-elect last year, and then this year my presidency. So yeah, I have 1 more year after this with all I think I can do with the local chapters, and then I pass the torch on to that next generation. And we are really fortunate. We'll have Elizabeth McLean as our president serving next year. So very excited about that.
Okay. That's good. Yeah. I was chair of the local AIA CRAN during COVID. And then also was on the AIA National CRAN Advisory Group for that. And so trying to do, like kind of these continuing ed courses online and trying to deal with other,
This all feels very
canceling
natural now, right?
Yes.
Zoom meetings.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. It's totally
At the
natural
time,
now, but
maybe not.
Yeah.
I remember we were trying to do happy hours online, like how to, we had like we sent out recipes for cocktails and
Yeah. So I know at the beginning, right? Like places were giving you cocktails. They would send cocktails to your house, and then after that, it was like, no, it's
I
free
really
for all. You
hope
got
that
to
was going to
provide your own
stick
cocktail.
around.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
that was fun. And then oh my gosh, what was another thing about so John was so I was chair of the CRAN group, and then so for the AIA Design Awards, for AIA San Diego Design Awards, John must have been head of the of the jury that was coming in. And so he was there. And so I guess, my name is Michelle, but it's with one L. And so when I was when he announced me that I was supposed to come up and give this award for like best ADU or something, accessory dwelling unit. And so I was like coming up, and he was saying, Michael Hoddle, and I was of course, everybody in the audience knew who it was or whatever, because he was the out of towner, right?
Yeah.
And so I just went up to the microphone and I just said, Michelle Hoddle, and then of course, afterwards, he was so embarrassed.
Oh,
he was just so embarrassed. And he walked, and so he told like the president of one person who was president then was like Steve Shin of Gensler, and then his late wife Laura Shin was actually there, and Laura said like, oh, he wants to apologize to you, and I said, it's okay, it's not a big deal, and so anyway, when I was trying to interview him, I just said, oh, and then I and I said, oh, I'm the person that you thought I was a man, so of course, and then I saw him probably a year ago at ASU for a lecture that he was giving. And I walked up to him afterwards. I said, yeah, I really want to interview you. And he said, oh, well, who have you interviewed? And I said, oh, I've interviewed like Tom Kundig. He goes, well, I'm not going to go. He's like, oh, I can't go after Tom Kundig. And then he said, and he goes, and he's like, really? He goes, really, I think that you should interview Rachel. And I said, okay, I'll interview Rachel. I said, that's fine. I said, but, obviously I interview men too. But I thought it was very kind of nice and really kind of showed like his kind of mentorship as far as like saying, oh, okay, it's like, I think that Rachel should do the interview. So yeah, there you go, Rachel.
He's been a phenomenal mentor to me for a long time, many years. And I think that what I fell in love with about Architekton has a lot to do with that same outlook. And, they named, when they founded Architekton, they named it Architekton very specifically, and not after like John Kane and Associates or something like that, because he always wanted it to be about the project, about the work, and also had this, vision that it could be passed on to generations long after him and live beyond him. And so that's been a really wonderful commitment that the studio has had. We did our first succession round with myself and Tom Riley. And then we've now just recently kind of started that third succession round with Ryan Grabe, who's now one of our partners as well. And so it's really fun looking at, who's that next generation within the studio that's going to step into this role moving forward.
Yeah. And so this is a special kind of, I mean, not special, but a Mother's Day podcast. So for Mother's Day, which is tomorrow. So I always like to interview a mother for Mother's Day.
Smart.
Yeah. Yeah. And so one of the questions will just be about, what you like about, being a mother and an architect, like also together. So Rachel, what are your first recollections of experiencing architecture?
There's kind of two that went a little bit hand in hand. So one of my first memories, I was about 7 years old. I used to fly to California and stay with my aunt for about a month during the summer, and usually outside playing nonstop. But it was a rainy day in California, Northern California. And so, I was classic, like, I'm bored. What can we do? And so my aunt took me to an art store, and I always loved art stores, teacher stores, anything that had like a lot of different pens and things to choose from. So we bought graph paper, we bought scales, we bought pens, we bought all these stuff. And she had and then all these books that were about designing your dream home. And they had floor plans in them. They had like renderings and floor plans side by side. And so we went that and we sat for hours probably at her dining room table designing our dream home. So we would look and be like, oh, I like the kitchen in this one. And then we draw it. And then I like the bedroom in this one, and kind of build our dream home. And I just loved the preciseness, I think, of the graph paper, but the creativity of the imagination and making it real. And that from that point forward, every project I did in school, whether it was for like a calculus project or a history research project, was all centered around architecture. Um, Simultaneously, my father was an electrician, and
Okay.
so he used to, especially after like I showed this interest, he then was like all in, and would take me out to job sites. I would come home from school and there'd be a roll of blueprints, like actual literal blueprints,
Yeah. Yeah.
like on my bed with lighting plans. So I knew how to put like a circuit plan together, like at age 9. I was installing ceiling fans,
I don't know how to put a I don't know how to put a circuit plan together at age 60. Yeah. I mean, I look at it, it's just like, it's really like something that I've never been interested in.
That's how I feel a little bit about mechanical drawings, but I love
Yeah. I
electrical.
actually know more about mechanical than I do about electrical. I mean, I do the lighting plan. I'll do the lighting plans and things, but as
Oh
far as
yeah.
like the circuits and like
Yeah.
trying to like even for my own house, like I had asked the contractor, what exactly do I need? Like I mean, really, and until I like had to do that for my own house, I really like just I wasn't like that savvy about that at all.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. It's just it was like constant. He was all excited always about sharing that with me. So
ah,
yeah. So it was just from that point forward, I never wanted to really do anything. I had a little blip of potentially wanting to go be a professional dancer.
yeah, yeah, of
But
course.
I gave that up, and I was like, nope, college is where it's at. So
Well, now some people have to go to college in order to be a dancer.
yeah, that's true. That's true.
So what three classic buildings do you like and why?
Yeah, so when I think about this question, it's really hard. Obviously, there's a lot of different buildings that we like.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
when I kind of initially think about which ones had the biggest impact on my life and today, still when I'm working, the ones that I pull from
Uh-huh.
the most, well, right off the bat is Falling Water. So I grew up in Pittsburgh, and
You did?
I did,
I
yes.
grew up in Pittsburgh.
Get
Did you
out
know
of
that?
here. No,
Did you? So funny.
that
Where did
is
you live in
wild.
Pittsburgh?
In Squirrel
Where?
Hill.
Yeah, I was on the South. I was on the South Hills. I was in
Okay, yeah.
Dormont. I grew up
Yeah.
in Dormont. Like my great grandparents like built this big. In fact, it's still like one of the biggest, nicest homes but it's not. It hasn't been owned by the family in years. But the historical society did talk to me about it. But I don't think that they ever put anything that I kind of wrote about. They said that they wanted to get in contact with me, and then it was actually like one of my former teachers that was on the historical society and wanted to know. And so, yeah, in Dormont,
Wow.
it's like only one
My
square
cousin lives in
mile.
Dormont. Yeah, my
Where
cousin,
do they
they have
live?
I don't know Dormont that well, but they have a really beautiful like craftsman style home
Oh yeah.
that
There's a
they've
lot. Yeah, there's a lot of
refinished. Yeah,
yeah,
so
That's
really
like
nice homes in that area.
yeah. No, and I mean it's too bad because a lot of them have. I know that the first home that I lived in when my mom sold it and we moved to another house in Dormont, and then they bought another house in Dormont, which is kind of bizarre that we like lived in 3 houses in 1 square mile. But yeah, because that's the way it is. And a quarter
Yeah.
of that mile is the park, right?
Oh
Park
yeah.
with the huge pool, which is where I used to go all the time. Everybody went there because there really
Oh,
isn't that much
city
else to
park,
do. Yeah,
man. I miss
And
those.
so we lived right across from the park the last couple years that we lived. And then my parents owned 2 homes there. Like we moved to California and my parents owned those 2 homes and rented them out for like years until they wanted to buy a house in California. And then they finally sold like both of those houses. But one of them was right across from the park. And
Okay.
it was it's this brick Tudor, and it
So you
recently
grew up with
sold.
Frank Lloyd Wright in your life?
No, that was the thing. I had never gone. We'd even gone to Ohio Pile. We'd gone to Ohio Pile. We'd never gone to
Oh
Falling
my
Water.
goodness.
Yeah. I'd never gone
Wild.
until I went back for a friend's wedding in 1995, and then I went back and it was with my late ex-husband, and then and our daughter who was just about a year. And she wasn't allowed in Falling
Oh,
Water. We had to
really?
put her. No, at that time you could not take any kids in there. And she was just, I mean, we could have just carried her around, but they wouldn't even let her in
Yeah.
like that. But they had like this kind of like daycare center, this play area, and she was like the only kid in it. And they had like a full-time person. So we just like let her. She loved it. She was all by herself
Amazing.
in this place, and it was like
Yeah.
this, it was a really nice, like, and for some reason it seems like it was hexagonal or something. But anyway, and so she was in there, and then of course we took her out to like get pictures outside and things like
Yeah.
that. But yeah. And then when I went back a couple years later, I went with a friend to Kentucky Knob.
Oh, yeah. People always skip Kentucky Knob, and I'm like, no, don't skip it. I was like, I mean, the architecture is great, but the grounds are really amazing, and all the
Yes.
art and sculpture that they have
Yeah.
is. I remember like the first time I went, I was like, is that an Andy Goldsworthy piece? Like, there's a piece of the Berlin Wall there. There's like,
Yes, I got a
it's
picture in front of the Berlin
unbelievable.
Wall because I'd actually gotten a picture, but I can't find it. I'd actually had a picture of me standing in front of the Berlin Wall when it was still up, and it was
Wow.
still divided because that's how old I am. When I
Yeah.
went to architecture
Right.
school there,
I mean, I remember it coming down.
yes, yeah. Okay, so
That's wild.
Falling Water,
So
so
Falling
Falling
Water,
Water is
yeah,
yeah.
and I've been there so many times, but it's every time I go, it still like makes me feel all the things,
Uh,
all the connection with nature, and I've been now in every season. It's highly worth it. So to
mhm.
anybody, it's kind of out of the way. People don't necessarily like travel to Pittsburgh very often, but um, if you do, go to Falling Water and
Don't
don't
even
skip
have
Kentucky Knob.
really any. I mean, I only have a few relatives left there,
Yeah,
so
I don't.
like I don't go. I haven't gone. I've been back 3 times since I moved here. Yeah,
Yeah, we
and
took my
people say,
son 2 years ago, and yeah, he loved it. He loved it. So
well, my
probably the
adult
next
kids want
next
to
budding
go.
architect.
I know my adult kids want to go, but I'm like, okay, I don't really want to pay for all. I don't want to pay for all of us to go back.
Yeah, I'll
I
meet you there.
know. I know. because my parents aren't there. So it's like I want to go see my parents. They're in the Midwest, so we have to go there. And I'm like, okay, I'm not,
Mm,
it's,
yeah.
if I'm
We
gonna
did a
pay for a
road
trip,
trip.
we have to
So
do it.
we did DC,
Yes, we did
and
too.
then we went
Yeah.
up through, we did the Appalachian Trail. We went kind of over to Pittsburgh, and then we went up to Niagara Falls, and then
Uh,
down. We landed in Buffalo, New York, where we flew out of. And I mean, I grew up with Buffalo. I had family there. In my head, it was like this, like dirty, got really, really cold with tons of snow. Like I had that was my memory of Buffalo. And when we went back, I was like, this is beautiful. It's like incredible parks by Frederick Law Olmsted. They had like an incredible art museum. They have several
yeah.
Frank Lloyd Wright properties that we went and toured. So yeah, who knew? Who knew?
Rachel, I can when I went probably when did I go back when I don't know. I was like talking one time I was like just looking on the internet and I looked and there was a building that was for sale in downtown Pittsburgh. And this is like 10 or 15 years ago. And for
Oh yeah,
$5,000.
I know. It's
And
wild.
it was on Penn Avenue. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. And I like asked some of my friends that were there, I'm like, hey, do you guys want to go into this? And one of my friends, she was like, well, Michelle, there aren't any grocery stores in downtown. So I was like, this would be great for artist loss. And she was like, there aren't any grocery stores downtown. So it would be such a hard sell. And I was like, what? And like, we totally did. And now, of course, it's way
Oh my
more. And
gosh.
I'm like, $5,000? And we like $5,000 for it to just sit there
Yeah.
would have been fine. I mean,
It's incredible what that city has done to turn itself around. It's really amazing. And now I just took a graduate level 6-year course, travel studio there a few years ago,
oh,
to
wow.
study that transition from what was considered the dirtiest city, where they had to turn streetlights on in the middle of the day because of the, pollution,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
in 50 years now it's the greenest city in the United States and has the
Oh, yeah.
largest living
Yeah.
futures per capita projects, and the Phipps
Yeah.
Conservatory is doing incredible things. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, it was a really fun trip.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, even when I was little, it wasn't like that. I mean, when my grandmother was little, it was like that. But it wasn't even like that when I was there. I mean, I used to go downtown for like in high school because I used to take
Yeah,
art
we used to go to
classes.
Oakland.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, no, one used to take
We
us to
took the
Oakland to
bus,
the
obviously.
museum
Yeah.
to see the dinosaurs. And then
Oh yeah.
when I came out here in like the San Diego museum, like they had like one dinosaur or something. I'm like, this is it? Like, this is all you guys have? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Because
I
even
know.
the one
Wait,
up
you
in
didn't grow up
LA.
with like a Carnegie Museum of
Exactly.
History? Like, is that not normal?
Exactly. I was like, what? Like, and then the nationality rooms. Like I've told people about the nationality rooms and they're like, what?
Oh
What?
yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh. I said, everybody went to the nationality rooms. That's why you even knew about these countries
Oh,
that
totally.
then became Soviet bloc countries because of all of the people that immigrated to Pittsburgh that were from Croatia and Lithuania and everywhere else. That was
Yeah.
like, yeah, yeah. And then I found out maybe, I don't know, 5 or 10 years ago that we were Slovakian, that my great grandparents immigrated from Slovakia because of the way that the borders changed. But they
Interesting.
spoke German. And so we
Yeah.
just always thought that they were German. And then my
Oh,
stepfather started looking at it and he's like, oh, no, actually, like Lavoka is like, or Lavocha, whatever, however they pronounce it, is in Slovakia now. And then I couldn't go there when I was younger and studied abroad because I would have I couldn't get there
yeah.
and
Yeah.
now like maybe I'll be able to get there. I don't know. It's kind of this medieval city, it's this medieval
Yeah.
town over
Yeah.
there. It's like very, yeah, very
That
kind of
would
neat.
be really cool to
Yeah.
visit. Yeah.
Yeah. So Frank Lloyd Wright, and then what is
Yes,
the
falling water.
second one? Sorry.
Um,
It's
was
the Pittsburgh
Barcelona.
connection. But
Yes,
yeah.
Barcelona Pavilion for me, and I didn't see that until gosh, like 5 or 6 years ago, when we finally got to Barcelona. But it's one of those projects that I studied so much in school, right? And all the ins and outs, you kind of know every single component about it.
Uh,
And then you go there and it does not disappoint, which some do. A lot of projects, I feel like once you get there in person, you're like, ah. Um, but the what I take away from that one has always been kind of just the beauty and the simplicity. Every single move, like you can't take anything away from the
mhm.
project.
Yeah.
That everything's been stripped that isn't necessary. And that I think about that when kind of we're doing projects and we're editing and editing and editing. And how do we, what's the essence of the design and kind of the bare minimum that it needs to do in order to not fall apart.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
I love that about that project. And it's just awe-inspiring when you're there.
I think
So
the
I
other
love
thing
that
is
one.
that you don't realize because, well, I mean, maybe you guys had colored photos in school. For some reason, I don't think I ever saw any colored photographs of that project
Yeah.
until I went there. And then I was like, what? Like the stone is green? I mean,
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah. That's
so
true.
it really, yeah. And so it had just been restored and everything. And I mean, it looked great. Of course, this is like when they restored it and when I was there in like 87. Yeah. So that's, but yeah, but I mean, it was just so much more. You just saw the textures
Hmm.
and the materials so much better than you could in
Yeah.
any
It really came to
photograph.
life in
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
It's kind
Yeah.
of one of those you study it for all the things, but then being there is really takes it to the next level. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
And I think I like it better than, I don't know. I think I like it better than the Farnsworth house, actually.
Yeah. I
Farnsworth
haven't
house
seen the
is just,
Farnsworth House in person.
mhm.
So
And I mean,
that's
it's
still a
fine.
to-do
I
list.
think it's, I think it's fun, but it very much is kind of, it seemed more like kind of a display. And I mean, it really could be at that point,
Mm,
but I mean, she was living there by herself and it was just really a vacation home for her.
yeah.
And there weren't any neighbors around. But then
Mm.
once people moved in, then she really didn't like to be living in this fun
This
by herself.
display case.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. No, I mean,
I
there
don't
are
know
curtains
why.
and stuff. Yeah, there are curtains and things like that. But
Yeah.
of course, as being a woman living, by yourself, and a well-known person, I
Yeah.
mean, not somebody that like, I mean, she had
Right.
money or whatever. So it was like, I'm sure she felt very vulnerable. But okay, so Barcelona Pavilion, and then
Yeah.
what's the third one?
So my third one is not actually a building and not necessarily something specific, but
Okay.
so my undergraduate degree is in landscape architecture actually, and so my master's in architecture. And so I've always been very connected to urban spaces, and I studied for my thesis the idea of plazas and like all the spaces where communities come together, all the public spaces, and that
Mhm.
probably drives my work more than anything else is looking at precedent and European plazas and South American plazas and places for demonstration, places for children to be running around, places for people to get married. So all of life that happens in these outdoor spaces, and the architecture really becomes the kind of backdrop to the actual space itself.
Mhm.
Um, and but it's very specific, right? And how not you can't just put a slab of concrete out there and call it a plaza.
Yeah.
It's not going to come to life. And so really understanding the dynamics of how you create really phenomenal, usable outdoor space that connect with people and communities. And so that's
Mhm.
and then kind of coming back to Pittsburgh a little bit, the idea, the parks and all of those kind of things that really drive us and allow us to connect to the outdoors in a lot of different
Yeah.
ways.
Yeah.
So those are
Yeah.
my drivers.
My grandfather was a crane operator, so he worked on the
Oh,
bridges, and he
wow.
he helped work on Point State Park.
Okay.
Yeah. And then
Amazing.
did you ever go to Mellon Square? My grandmother used to take me to
Yeah.
to take us to Mellon Square up there. We have like there's, we were just with the fountains and,
Yeah.
walking up those steps in order to get up to the top.
Yeah. Oh,
Did you,
so
did
many
you used to,
steps in that city.
there's so many, yes. I guess if you, yeah, it's not very accessible, but there are elevators. There are elevators, and I
Now
mean,
they're, yeah.
if you were able to walk up the right, if you're able to walk up the sidewalk and then through the back way,
Mm,
right? The yeah,
okay.
right. Isn't the William Penn Hotel off of the top
Yes.
part of it?
Yes.
Yeah, so you could walk out on that one. It's just yeah, it's just
Yeah.
if you enter from the one down below, it's a
It's a
yeah,
lot.
yeah, yeah. Did you go to that bakery there? Did you ever go to like Ray's Bakery that was
Not,
down on the bottom right there?
I don't think so. No, but the bakery we always went to was in the Strip District. What is it called? I can't remember now. But it was next to like Woolies Fish Market.
Hmm.
Yeah. Rosenblum
Yeah.
Bakery. Went
Oh,
there a
Rosen.
lot.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's like Lady Locks. Did you eat Lady Locks when you late? No,
No,
they're like
no,
basically
but
like cream fill. It was like
oh, I
a
know what you're talking about.
pastry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the pastry that's like they have that Prantle's Bakery. Every time I go back, I go
Yeah.
to Prantle's Bakery and get an almond tart cake. It's the
Yeah.
best thing in the
Yeah.
entire world.
Yeah. It is. And what's the square that's off of, it's not off of um the PPG building, but it's a square where there's that place where people get fish sandwiches. It's just a small square and there's like little bars and I don't think it's not that far away. It's close to
From
PPG. And then
PPG.
there's like a fish. They make
Wow,
those
fish sandwiches
like
are.
these, yes, if those fish, yeah, fish sandwiches. And then like that oyster one that had like the oysters in it.
Oh
I
yes, what is that called? I can't remember.
forget which one
I
that
can't
is. Oh
remember.
well, I'll look. I'll put it in the. I can put it in the blog now. Let's yeah.
Yeah, we'll have all the links to all the best places to
Well,
eat in
of the
Pittsburgh.
links, or or what's the Permanis where it
For
has the
Manny's, well, yeah, for
yeah,
Manny
it has the
Brothers for
sandwiches
sure.
with the French
Yeah.
fries in them. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
is it French fries or potato chips?
French fries.
French fries. Yeah.
Yeah, the
Okay.
coleslaw, the French fries, everything's on the sandwich.
It's on the sandwich.
It's delicious.
Okay. Were there any squares that you were thinking of, or any other ones besides?
Not specifically.
Okay.
I was fortunate
The
enough to
idea of a
study
plaza.
abroad in Argentina and
Okay.
in Buenos Aires, and
Mhm.
the just the idea of the plaza is such a critical component to the culture there, and it's how they practice democracy. It's very normal to have a lot of protests and a lot of demonstrations and uh,
Mhm.
things of that sort. But at the same time, on a day-to-day basis, it's a very fluid, community-centric environment as well. And then, we honeymooned in Sevilla in Spain, and I could have
Oh,
stayed there forever. And just the idea of having, the shops kind of around with the one kind of little bar and food and snacks, and all the kids are just running around and playing, and while the parents kind of sit off to the side. And it's just a
yeah.
really, I think I would love to see more in the United States, of spaces that create this community. Um, we went out to, there's a new restaurant here, Leame, I think it's called, in the Global Ambassador, which
Oh,
is a
yes, I've been
sandbox
there. Yes. No,
concept.
I went to, yeah, I went because I went with Lutron. I went to the Global
Okay,
Ambassador.
yeah.
Yes, yes, yeah,
So they do, like,
yeah.
I mean, I'll hand it to Sam Fox. He's a beautiful curating these environments, right? They're like curated, but to me, I'm like, it's kind of Disneyland-esque in the sense that like you're like creating this like fake urban environment. And I'm like, why don't, but everybody wants to go there because it's like you're sitting in like a French cafe on this courtyard plaza, but it's like a hotel courtyard, and you're kind of like,
Very
well,
bizarre. Yeah, that
everybody
was
wants
bizarre
to
to
be
me.
here. Like,
Yeah,
clearly we crave this environment. Why don't we just design our city to create these spaces? Why
I
do we have
know.
to create these like
It's
weird Disneyland kind of experiences? Like, we can do this for real. And so that's my soapbox, but
And then I went swimming in the pool. I was the only person that was even out
oh,
there in that
really?
pool. But I felt like I knew that like people could look at, I was just like, I don't know. I just
Oh,
like
because
felt
you're
like,
like
okay,
everything's looking
it's
down on it. Yeah.
it's looking down on that side. And then the only reason why I went into the thing is because my room wasn't ready. And so they were
Oh.
like, "Oh, your room isn't ready," which I think is just a ploy for them to go, for you to go buy drinks. But I went, but I went and sat outside in their courtyard area that they have there.
Hmm.
And then we did have dinner. Did have dinner up at
On
the
the
top,
roof.
which
Hmm.
yeah,
Very
which that
lovely.
view, yes,
Yeah,
that view is great.
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, is
I
that
mean,
restaurant or no? It's a
Leome is on
restaurant.
the ground level, so it's the
Okay.
one that's it's yeah, they designed it after this like French, and I mean they kind of nailed it. It does feel very much like when you're in Paris and you're at like finding a little cafe on the street, and the interface that it has with the with the plaza. But it's just like funny to me that we create these like scenes, they're like set design, and instead of
Yes.
just like
Yeah.
putting that into the infrastructure of how we design our city. And so I'd love to see us like, design our cities in a way that create these outdoor spaces and
Yeah.
interface with the restaurants on the street, and where
Yeah.
it feels authentic and not just, how many, commas do you have in your salary and can you afford to come into this like
Yes.
space, right?
Yes. Yeah. I think it's very much about like, oh, look at
Yeah,
us or something like that. Yeah. Yeah. The
yeah.
most extensive mini bar I've ever seen in any. They had things in there that were very interesting that I'm like, well,
Interesting.
definitely has everything you would ever want in a mini bar in your hotel room.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Cool.
are there any places in Phoenix or Scottsdale that you would recommend as far as like a plaza space or
Mm. We don't do it very well here, I don't think.
well, it's hot?
It's hot, but it's not most of the year. It's everybody wants to be
Yeah.
outside.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and the
Or
funny
what
thing
about on
is,
the college campus on ASU? Because you guys have been done
yeah,
some buildings on there. Yeah.
they've done a nice job of creating some great outdoor environments. Even still though, I feel like, well, it's hot, but we also at the same time, the first thing that every project VEs on is are the trees, are the plants. So you
Oh,
create this like beautiful plaza and you have these trees, and then they plant these like tiny like little weeds,
yeah.
and they're like, why isn't anybody using our plaza? And I'm like, well, do you want to sit out there? You gotta have more than just like this. You gotta create
Yeah.
an environment.
Yeah.
Um, I'm hopeful about the Scottsdale Civic Center that was recently redeveloped.
Okay.
So I think there was a lot of work put into that space. That was, I believe, Dig and Lake Flato. And so I'm
Okay.
hopeful that, as they start to populate the businesses, that used to be a really thriving area. The one thing that's hung on there is AZ88, which is always a good time. But the interface between AZ88 and that like Civic Park Plaza space works really nicely. And so it's like if you could have more of that, I think our density here detracts from the ability to kind of create these outdoor spaces. I think that
Ah,
we and people that's why a big reason why people move here too, right? Is they want kind of land. Every house has its own pool, has its own, big backyard. So you don't have to go, to these great outdoor spaces. Whereas, in New York, everybody has these tiny postage stamp, apartments, so they need to be outside. They need Central Park. Um,
yeah.
they need all of these different spaces. So it's just kind of figuring out how we do what we do differently, how we make it ourselves. How do we make
Hmm.
it for Phoenix? I think the canal system has a lot of promise. I know someday, I'm still hopeful that someday we will actually, you know, celebrate this amazing canal system and waterfront property that we have throughout the desert. And I think the Biltmore has done a nice job of how they engage the canal system. Oso Brewery,
I didn't know.
wonderful.
I didn't know the Biltmore was on the canal. Where's the
Yeah.
canal in the Biltmore?
You cross over it to get into the actual
Oh,
Biltmore,
okay.
but they redeveloped the entire kind of their length of the canal edge, and it's this really
All
wonderful
right.
running and biking path that's used a lot, um, and has really nice planting along it and some
Hmm.
trees, and then you keep going down the canal and everyone has these like mega houses that butt up against the canal and they've built these 8-foot block walls, so you're just kind of in this. It blows my mind that you would have this property along this
You
like
know,
what could be this great amenity, and then you like build this massive CMU block wall. um
yeah, I mean,
I,
I'm
I
done with
don't get
people and
it.
their walls, but yeah, it's kind of funny because we lived in Venice Beach for 10 years, and part of
Oh,
the thing is, we have the
yes.
Venice canals there.
Oh,
Okay. Well, one of our friends from architecture school, I mean, he had grown up in the Hollywood Hills. And so then he got some money together. Right? He bought property, but this is like in like the mid 90s. This is in the mid 90s. So he bought property there. He built this big house. And of course, the whole thing, it was like, tri level. It was like one of the biggest, it was
yeah.
when they first started building really big in the canals. And so tri level, all glass on the front, right? And so he was living by himself. And so it was fine. But then he had this girlfriend, and then they had a baby, and then they had these steps that were like super scary for any child, and then they had and then also, he was like, oh, everybody walks by and like looks in at our house. I'm like, well, of course, everybody does that. I said,
Yeah,
that is, if you had ever lived in
that's
the
why they
canals
invented
before,
curtains.
yeah, that's kind of the thing. Like everybody walks along there. And
Yeah.
Matt Groening lived on the canals with his family because my late ex-husband worked on a house of his with Mark Appleton's office. And then I worked on the house. One of the guys from Mark Appleton's office left and started his own firm. And then I worked on the house that they wanted a bridge crossing over from the main house to this house next door that was just going to be like the wife's painting studio. He's no longer with that person, or whatever. But they had their kids, but they were like right there. I mean, they couldn't have
Yeah.
been in a more public spot than,
Yeah.
and even they didn't have, because you weren't allowed to build higher than like 4 feet along the canal. So you had to have it open. And then I did a remodel project that was in it's in the Valentine's Day movie. It's Ashton Kutcher's house,
Mm.
but it's just a low fence. You're only allowed to have a low fence
Yeah.
there. And
Yeah.
then that's, you're not allowed to have any high fences and stuff. But I was kind of laughing, and
Well,
then
I mean, it makes community too. Like it's
yeah,
and safety. I mean,
and
the
safety.
irony that people build these massive walls to keep their privacy and their safety. And I'm like, so we bought a house when my husband's also an architect, and
Uh,
we bought a house. It hadn't been touched since the original owners, 1956. And it
mhm.
was the only house that I'd seen that had no wall. It's a corner lot, it had no wall around it. And I was like, oh my God, like there's no wall. It's not a fort.
Yeah,
And so we did need a fence because of our dog. So we wanted to put in a fence, but we wanted to make sure that was still like very porous and open and
yeah.
visual. And so we have this kind of slatted, fence that's very open, and we kept it very low. So
Hmm.
everyone can kind of look over and see and all the things. And every single person, what's funny is I think people have just gotten so used to comfortable with like the expectation that there's the wall, that when we built our fence, we had so many people stop and ask us and comment about it. And they were like, oh, I want to do this at my house. And I just, it's like, interesting that I don't know, that we don't offer people like the choice in a way. But what's
Well, what,
also interesting is that we have I would say the safest house on the street because yeah, we're up against an alley and we're up against a corner lot and all these things that people deem scary and put barbed wire around the alleys. I'm like, what? What? Just put lights back there, like,
yeah,
you know.
yeah, yeah.
But I was like, if somebody hops our fence to break into our house, all of our neighbors can see them. Nobody's breaking into my home because everyone have eyes on the street, right? Jane Jacobs. So um,
Mhm.
it's just fun to kind of challenge, I guess, the status quo and you know look at things differently. And I'd love to if we can slowly, like, I guess, break down the walls.
Yeah, yeah,
um,
yeah.
I mean, they serve a purpose in some instances, but
I
I
mean,
just
we're
don't
not
think it
allowed to
should be
have
like the
higher.
go-to.
Yeah, we're not allowed to have higher than a 4 foot fence in the front yard all over the city, but there's numerous
Yeah,
people that side and like the corner lots, they're supposed to come in front yard setback on either side and they don't. They've got like, but there's one person that's built like this wall. I'm pretty sure they didn't have a permit. It's like 6 to 8 feet high on the sidewalk side, and I'm pretty sure that it's not, there's no reinforcement in it or whatever. It's just like
yeah.
there waiting to fall on somebody.
Like if
That's,
something happens to you,
yeah.
who's gonna know? Like who's gonna do you even know your neighbor? Like everyone just drives into their garage, never they don't even know the people that live next to them. It blows my mind. Like, I don't know.
We're
So
doing a project. We're doing a project, and there are all these fences in it, which I didn't really have anything to do with the fence. It was for the client, and then the civil like put it on the. And there have been so many questions, so many plan check corrections asking about this fence, and then what about this? What about this fence? And I'm like determined now. I'm like, you know what? I'm never going. I'm going to tell everybody not to put any fences in any
yeah,
plans at all because it's like, okay, well, this area it's retained 2 feet, but then how far are you putting the fence on top of the retaining wall in order for it to be 4 feet high? And I'm like, why can't we just put 4 feet high maximum on the thing? Or
yeah.
like, but I just literally said, like, I'm never going to put another fence. People can put their own fences in,
Put your own
you
fence
know,
up.
yeah, because you have like I mean, they have to have the CCNRs for the
Yeah,
development anyway. So anybody it's covered by that. So it's like,
yeah,
why did we have to put any of these fences in? I mean, it's just a total, just like let people do their own stuff if they want to afterwards and then create the guidelines and then they can just do it themselves if they want. We have no fences in the front yard. And then there was even on both sides, the people like it was starting to fall down, and so and they're like, oh, do you want to rebuild the fence? I'm like, no, I just want to take it down so that we don't even. I said I won't cross over into your stuff, like we don't, in the front. And it
yeah.
was the same thing with the other side, and so we just took down. So now we just have no fences in the front yards. We have like a 6 foot fences in between, the yards, but no concrete block walls on that one. Okay, well, I should probably move on to the next question. So, what do you like about being a mother and an architect?
um Together. Well, so
You can do them
it's hard.
separately, but yeah,
The challenge, I guess. Well,
yeah, it's pretty
I
challenging.
love it kind of goes a little bit hand in hand in reality. So I would say, I mean, as we've kind of talked about, I love informing our built environment. My biggest driver in what I do is really all comes back to community and developing places for people to live. So creating places for people. And I mean, hats off to uh, people that do these really beautiful, like, custom homes and things. That's not my forte.
Mhm.
I think it's incredible and they're so beautiful and they're these like art pieces I almost consider that like a sculpture, like a piece of art um above and beyond what I do. But I look at architecture as more I work more in the public realm, so
Mhm.
public architecture, a lot
Yeah.
of higher education. And this is where it kind of gets, I guess, a little hand in hand is creating places for people that impact their lives at very key points in their lives.
Uh-huh.
So I love the idea that even if they don't remember like that building that they were studying in college, or they those moments in people's lives are so impactful. And I believe fully that the environment that they're in plays a very big role in that, right? So if they
Mhm.
have access to, beautiful buildings that have a lot of daylight and a lot of access to, the state of the art technology, and can adapt according to what their needs are. So just very long-winded way of saying that what I love most is the people part of it. And when
Mhm.
we actually are finished and the users kind of take over, and seeing how they take ownership of those buildings and make it their own, and they really become kind of like a backdrop to their lives. And I love that part of it. And
Mhm.
so it's kind of similar with, my son's 8 years old now, Nico, um, and being that kind of having that same outlook on raising a kid, I think, like, and that idea that we're raising adults in reality, and being that the kind of backbone, to help him develop and create himself, um, and eventually he'll take over,
Mhm.
right, and make it
Yeah.
his
Oh,
own.
yeah. Yeah.
So right now I'm just building the infrastructure. But it's I would say that running a business, as running a business and being a mom and president of AIA, and teaching at ASU, and all the things that I've taken on. um I think they all balance each other, and they each bring something very unique to my life. I think being a mom has made me a more empathetic architect, and probably
Yeah.
even more so a more empathetic business owner, and working with employees, and seeing their perspective in things, which is really valuable, to nurture them and look at them as that kind of next generation of leadership. And so it's been very formative uh, in
Mhm.
my recent career years.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I think helps, for business. I mean, just as far as opening up the field to more mothers, that's kind of that I mean,
Yes.
if people, and I mean, I've talked, like I talked to one of my friends, and this is before COVID, and they were saying, oh, how do you think that we can get more people to, you know like commit to the firm as far as being associates? And I said, freedom of
Mhm.
schedule, freedom to make their own schedule, and freedom to, if they want to do something at home, that they can do that. Because I'm like, and the person said, absolutely, it's like, no, I don't want to do that. They like said, no, I don't want to do that. And then COVID happened, and I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, there goes there goes a lot of
There
those.
goes your choice. Now you're
Yeah,
doing
there goes a lot of
it.
those rules, are
Yeah.
out and we were still able to make it work. And I think we're still able to make it work, and I said,
Yeah.
so it's like all of those rules about like how that, now I think it's just like, if you want people to come into the office again, like, have more of that, that kind of that freedom of schedule in order to be able to do it. And of course, like, men do it too, but
Oh
men,
yeah.
like, a lot of the times they just won't say what they're doing stuff for. They'll just, like, I know guys that were just like, they would just write in, and people be like, oh, where's so and so? I'm like, oh, I don't know. Just so he's like been signed out for the last couple hours, but he would never put anything on there
Interesting.
as far as what he would do. Where like women, and the mothers in architecture groups will be like,
Like,
oh, I wanted to do
I have a
this. And I'm
parent
like, you
teacher
know what?
conference or.
Yeah. I said, don't put what you're doing. I said, don't put what you're doing. Just say that. I said, just be
Yeah.
like a man like that. Like they're never saying where they went. You have no idea where they went or what they're doing or anything. We always feel like, oh, and then if they were going to say like, oh, I'm, not that there aren't men, right? I mean, I was married to an architect also, but and then when I went away to write the architecture exam, our daughter was 13, and he called up and he said, "Oh, she has a stomach. She's got something wrong with her stomach, and I have to take her to the pediatrician." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." Then he goes, "So where's the pediatrician?"
Oh
Like
my
he didn't
goodness.
even know where the pediatrician. I said, "It's the same pediatrician that we've had for like the last like 8
13
years
years.
or
Yeah.
something."
Yeah.
In fact, if you told her, she could probably tell you where the office is and what the pediatrician is
Yeah. No
because
kidding.
she's 13. Yeah. But
Yeah.
but
I
yeah,
mean, I
yeah,
feel very, very lucky. My husband is I would say like a very like, and I would say this is why I can do what I do too, is that
yeah.
he's an actual partner
Mhm.
in what we do, and takes on a lot of the load that I think women are um still taking on the bulk of the homework, uh, the silent stuff like making doctor's appointments, as well as the big stuff like driving them to and from school, pickup, parent teacher conference, things of that sort.
Homework.
I'd say we split that
Yeah.
very equally,
Yeah.
which helps, and very supportive of each other's careers. And, my son has also been at a lot of AIA events. So there's also that, where you just kind of drag them along, and kids are resilient. I mean, I think that a lot of times we've gotten in this habit in the US culture anyway of um, really just serving our children, for whatever their needs are, and kind of sacrificing any of our own for them, which I think it has a is great on one level, but at the same time, I think that children also just want to be with you,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know?
they don't care where
And
they are.
yeah, he
Yeah.
loves
Yeah.
coming to my office.
Yeah.
We have Nerf guns. So we have a whole arsenal of Nerf guns. So
Yeah.
he's like thrilled anytime he comes to our studio.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think children,
and
then they learn they're supposed to act in public places with people,
yes,
or in an
yeah,
office. It's like there are people that are grown adults that I know that don't
yeah,
know how to act because they were like never taken anywhere I'm like, what? Like, weren't you at your parents' office or something? Like,
yeah.
why would you be doing that?
But I think
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
us being in these roles too, in leadership in the studio. I mean, I've seen a huge shift in Architekton's demographic from just me becoming a partner in the studio.
Mhm.
We've had a lot more women join the studio, because they feel supported and understood on like a very basic level. It's not that
Yeah.
obviously I have a lot of mentors that were men, I have mentors that were women. Everyone
Mhm.
brings value in different ways, but there is something to be said for um uh I guess representation, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when I think back to when I was, trying to get pregnant, what feels like a million years ago now, but uh even in the most supportive environment that I can imagine an architecture studio with our leadership, I still didn't feel comfortable, you know, talking to, John about I have to go to these doctor's appointments because I'm, going through IUI or whatever it is. Um, or even just saying that Pete and I were hoping to, get pregnant and have a family. Saying that as a woman is a very hard thing to say because people inherently associate that with you leaving,
Yeah.
and you don't want them to, not give you responsibilities,
Yeah.
feel like you're, not invest in you because of that part of your life. So I feel like, again, even in the most supportive environment, I didn't even feel comfortable talking about that openly
It's
with
nobody's
them.
business also. It isn't anybody's business,
Well,
really.
no, but I even just
Yeah.
asking, like, do we have a, family leave policy? Like, like, well, why are you asking? Like, what are, and so
Yeah.
what's been really
It's,
fun is the seeing the
oh,
change. And I had one of our employees mention recently that they were, maybe considering, expanding their family in the next year or
mhm.
two. And just the fact that she felt comfortable saying that to me
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
such an obvious shift, and made me feel so good about where we've come to as a studio, and the evolution of,
Yeah. Yeah.
what we offer, and that comfort level that people feel within the studio, that they can
Yeah.
be a mother and a really, kick-ass architect at the same
Yeah.
time. It doesn't have to be an or. And it's a long career. Like, architecture is a long career.
Hopefully.
Like,
Hopefully.
you can take seasons.
Oh yeah, no, no, no. I totally. I mean, there's a lot of people that. I mean, I know that like one friend. I mean, if you have, I mean, things are different if you have like this family support where your parents are like taking care of your kids. I never had that. I mean, my ex mother in
Yeah.
law like would come like one day a week, but she was. I mean, it was just awful because if she didn't want to come, then she would cancel the last minute, and I'd be like, okay. And then I would have my daughter on the backpack on my back or whatever, like at a meeting, because because she really didn't have any, like she had no connection with me as
Yeah.
far as like me wanting a career or any, I mean that was totally that was like as foreign as where she came from that for so it was just that idea was just totally, I mean that her son could do that was totally fine, but for me
Yeah.
to want to do that, it was different.
Confusing.
And luckily when yeah, yeah, luckily when I got pregnant the first time, I was working for Gordon Polon, and I didn't even know that I was pregnant because we had like tried, and then like the kid's dad had been laid off, and then we stopped, and then I thought that I was I thought that I was that I had stomach ulcers from the stress. It turned out that I was pregnant, but I could like remember like Gordon Polon, his wife is an oncologist, and and they have, and she was pregnant around the same. She was pregnant. I think they already had one kid, and then maybe she was trying to get pregnant the second time. So anyway, I'm like describing my symptoms to Gordon, and Gordon is like saying, "Oh, maybe it's this, maybe it's that." And then one of my other friends is like, "Maybe you're pregnant," and I was
You're
like,
pregnant.
"What?" I'm like, "What?" And then I took a pregnancy test. I was like, "Oh my god!" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm pregnant." And I went in and I like said, "Well, Gordon, I found out why my stomach has been like sick the whole time." And the funny thing is that like years later, Gordon, because I have three kids, but years later, and then I had a miscarriage in between the first and the second. But I like told him, we were talking about pregnant. He's like, "Oh, well, you were pregnant a couple times when you worked because nobody would hire me when I was pregnant with the second kid because they
Mm,
saw that I had already started my own firm, but so I went back to work for him, part time." And he goes, "Oh, well, you had these pregnant, like you were never sick during your pregnancy." And I was like, "Gordon, I threw up every morning. Like literally 10 feet outside of your door was the bathroom, and I was throwing up in there for like every single morning because I love coffee, but when I'm pregnant, it just makes me sick. So just the smell." He would have Pete's like Major Dickinson, and I was just like, "Oh my gosh." But what's funny is my daughter loves Pete's Major Dickinson, and
that's
I'm like, "Oh
funny.
my god, I threw up so much," which just,
That's
but I'm
ironic.
like, and he was just totally clueless. I was like,
Oh
"What?"
yeah.
Like I would have thought that you would have known, like you would have heard me or something. Maybe NPR was on too high or something. Yeah, yeah. So it does help if there's other women in the office or whatever, or
Yes.
people that want to like take a nap underneath their at their desk or something. And you're like, they asleep. They taking a nap. Yeah. Oh, okay. So what would you like to say about the future of architecture?
Oh, well, I think I would love, hmm. I think that if I give everybody an action item, I guess, would be to, I think we need to reconnect with our kind of roots of architecture in the sense of really understanding construction, understanding materials, understanding how these things come together. We don't all need to be a design build firm by any stretch, but we need to really have a mastery in um, what we do. We can't, I mean, I think the technology is great. We use it a lot. I love what it can offer. But I fear right now that we've gone a little bit, down this road where we're only, creating essentially imagery
Uh-huh.
and not architecture, which
Yes.
so circling kind of back to what that means. And so you don't need to be a contractor, you don't need to be a design builder, but you should know, how to stack masonry. So you can have
Yeah,
like an
yeah,
actual
yeah. Kind of the role
conversation.
is,
You should
yeah,
understand coursing, right? We
yeah.
need to understand, how we connect weeping for brick and all the things that I feel like the technology stuff is this really bright and shiny object that is, again, really great. I have nothing against it at all. I just don't want us to forget this side of the, brick and mortar side of what we do, because
Yeah.
very
How to actually
quickly
construct it.
we can lose, that I guess prominence within our profession with our clients.
Mhm.
You see contractors, they're like the number one, employer of architects these days. I feel like they hire all of them, they pay better, they get paid better. People complain that architects aren't getting paid enough, and it's like, yeah, but it's, how do we show our value? And I think we
Mhm.
show our value through our knowledge and our expertise. And it can't just be through our artistry. I think it
Yeah,
has to be
yeah.
more multifaceted than that. So I
Mhm.
hope that we don't lose sight of the technology and what it can offer, but at the same time find balance in the technical side of what we should know and what we do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, definitely. I think that's definitely okay. Is there anything else?
I don't think so. This has been really wonderful. Thank you for
Oh, sure.
um, the
What is
conversation.
your Mother's Day gift idea? What are you gonna do for Mother's Day?
Oh, well, ours is a little bit delayed. We're gonna so tomorrow I always do like a me day. So I like spin and bike riding and things. So I'm gonna go do all of that. And my
Okay.
mother just recently moved to Phoenix. So now I'm
Okay.
going to incorporate the day with her. But my actual Mother's Day, we're postponing a little bit to the summer. And I'm a big camper. I love camping and
Okay.
horseback riding, and so we're gonna do
Uh-huh.
that later in the summer.
Where are you camping?
I don't know. My husband's planning all of it, so we'll find out.
Oh, okay. Were you a
But
Girl Scout?
I was a Girl Scout, but yes,
I was
I
in
just
Girl
always loved
Scouts
camping
too.
and being
We
outdoors.
used to camp. Yeah, we
Yeah.
used to camp all the time too. And people were always like laughing there. I say like, oh, they're like, oh, what? They'll say like something about like a motor. I'm like, what? Like, shit.
Oh no, that's not
No, I'm a
camping.
tent camper. I'm like, I'm
Yes,
a tent camper. I'm a
do the
real
tent.
camper. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Um, yeah, no, a motorhome is not camping. That's just driving somewhere and sleeping. I don't know.
Yeah.
But our office actually does an annual camping trip every year, so that's
Really?
really fun. And we move it around. We just do one night because 2 nights without showers is too much with coworkers.
Maybe with
But
some of them.
yeah, we do. This year we're doing outside of Prescott. We've done Woods Canyon Lake, so up on the rim. It's always a very good time.
Oh,
So I can't wait. We're doing that in June. So
oh, okay. That's good.
yeah. What about
That's
you? What
good.
are your Mother's Day plans?
Well, last year we went to this one. this one restaurant, which I do like, but then this year I'm just like, you know what? I don't, I'm like anti brunch or something this
I
year because
agree.
people are charging so much. I read that the Hotel Del is charging $232 per person with one glass of champagne. And I'm like, what? And I said, for all of us to go, right? For my three kids and I and my daughter's boyfriend, that would be like over $1,000
That's
for
crazy.
brunch. I'm like,
Just
I don't
buy
want to
it.
pay.
Buy me a ticket to Europe.
I'm
That's fine. Don't take me to brunch. No. Yeah.
like, you know what? Forget. I said, just we'll do it at the house because my
Yeah.
daughter has all these dietary things anyway, so she can't even eat most of the food at the places. And so I'm
Mm.
like, you know what? Just forget it. We'll just have. And I said, I want, it's like I'll make my own mimosa or like make a better mimosa. I don't want to like
Yeah.
232. And then one even for like the kids, for the kid like from 6 to 16 or something was like $120. I'm like, what 6-year-old is going to eat enough food at a
$120. That's
brunch
crazy.
for $120? But it's all
Yeah.
about the Hotel Del. But I was just like, no, I'm like, just, I said, no, I'd rather just have brunch here at the
And
house
it's
and
never
just
that
do
good.
whatever.
Like, even if it's an amazing restaurant, because it's Mother's Day, I feel like it's like shitty. Like I'm like,
Crowded and
yeah,
they're pushing you out of the table because they
no,
want other people to come in and yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
no, thank
I'm
you.
all for it. Yeah, yeah, I'm just gonna do it. I said, yeah, just and I got flowers already from one of my kids.
Beautiful.
I came home last night, and then the box was like sitting in, and then this morning I'm like, I think you're gonna have to take the flowers out of the box. Like you're not gonna be able to wait till
Yeah.
Sunday.
Oh,
So he put them out
nice.
here.
Yeah, I got sunflowers. My son gave me sunflowers.
Yeah, sunflowers are nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much. I'm
Thank
gonna
you.
oh, and then I'd also like to thank the Grouchy Architect and Opus 2 MBE LLC for QA, QC, and technical specification writing for architectural projects. Thank you so much, Christian Nielsen Palacios. And thank you, Heather. I'm sorry, Rachel.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.